co-president. I'm the co-president of SBCAN, Santa Barbara County Action Network. Some of the people now in the space are longtime members and participants. Other people I don't recognize the names, and so welcome. One of my jobs with SBCAN has been to convene what has been a South Coast, mostly South Coast roundtable, and then we often have a monthly North County roundtable as well. I think this is very much a combined one because we are going to be talking to our newly elected from First District, Roy Lee, and this is a great opportunity for us to share with him concerns that we have.
Big flags, Roy, Wendy.
I think we need to have people mute themselves, please.
Yeah, Dick, remind everybody to mute themselves.
I am. That was Oscar, yeah. Thank you, Oscar, for muting. And then we will, at around 12:45, Roy has to go, so we will start a conversation with Wendy Santamaria, newly elected from First District in Santa Barbara City Council. And similarly, she'll say something at the beginning about what's going on there, and then the floor will be open. So the way we proceed with the participation of people, the Q&A, the discussion, we found it very good for people to use the chat function rather than everybody trying to raise their hands and get the floor. And I will try to moderate through the chat function the kinds of questions and issues that are coming up. And if we have time, we might open the floor for more for verbal interaction that way, but it's been more orderly to do it through the chat function. Yeah, Janet.
As a board member, I would like a little.
I can't hear you. Go ahead.
As a board member, I would.
Now you're muted.
Janet, just speak louder. What, Janet,
there you go. Speaking.
Now?
Yeah, now you're good. Go ahead.
Just speak louder.
Go ahead, Janet.
As a board member, I would like a little privilege to talk about a particular project that I'm very concerned about.
Well, we'll see what time we have. Thank you. All right, so Roy Lee, welcome to the SBCAN Roundtable. How would you like to introduce yourself to this world? We're really eager to hear from you and to get to know you, and vice versa. You get to know some of the people who are active throughout the county in a lot of the issues facing our world here. Go ahead, Roy.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And first, I want to say thank you for everybody for being here today and being part of this conversation. So who am I, right? A lot of people have to ask the question. So I live in this area since 1986. My family and I immigrated from Taiwan. We came to this country very little, and we worked hard, saved. And now we're business owners, homeowners. And I'm proud of that. I've been married to my wife, Tina, for over 18 years with 3 kids. My son, Tyson, who's 17, my daughter, Madison, who's 15, and my daughter, Ellie, who's 15. What I'm passionate about and my priorities as a supervisor is mostly focused on many things, but our environment is one of the top priorities for me. Oil, preservation of our open space, and making sure that we have quality air that has a positive effect on our community. Housing is another one that we'll be talking about for many, many generations to come. How can we create affordable housing for generations of Santa Barbara County residents? And that is something that is a priority for me. As you may recently have seen, cannabis is one that we are taking as a board as a priority to address the odor issues. and it's something that I'm proud that we are addressing. And economic development, how can we attract better paying jobs so that our locals are able to afford to live here and work here and provide for a family. And rounding it off, as you've seen down in Los Angeles with the wildfires, public safety, especially fire safety, we have to look at what we can do to make sure that we do a better job in preventing those forest fires. And just saw today, protecting our immigrants. You know, with the new administration of our president coming up, there's a lot of fears going out, and we have to do everything we can as a community and elected officials to protect our local residents. So that's just a general overview. And is there any questions I can?
Yes, so I will call on Janet Blevins to, she's been very active on the oil issue, and since you raised that as a high priority, Janet, why don't you say what the concern is that you have right there? It seems to be an urgent matter.
Thank you very much. I actually appeared before the Board of Supervisors, I guess it was last Tuesday, and spoke about the Sentinel oil project in Lompoc, California. I don't know, Roy, if you remember that.
It's about oil trucking, right?
That's part of it, yes. They want to, Sentinel Oil wants to get a truck rack, which of course means that they want to load up the tanker trucks that would be on that rack, or the tankers that would be on that rack to trucks, and drive them all the way to Coalinga, up the down Harris Grade, first of all, and then onto the 1 through Vandenberg Village, which is the site of numerous fatal accidents in the last couple of months. And my position is very strongly that, especially with climate change, which we've known was coming, Exxon could have told us in 1980 exactly what the effects were going to be right now. But instead they decided to do a disinformation campaign. Anyway, in 2014, we ran a Measure P to ban fracking, and that measure failed. But more importantly, since that time, we have not passed a single new oil project in Santa Barbara County. And I want to just make sure that we keep it that way.
Great. Roy, do you want to comment on that?
Janet, I say thank you for your comment, and I fully agree with you. As a proponent of renewable energy, currently I'm getting solar at my home, and I'm so excited. And I think we have a great opportunity to focus on renewable energy and step away from fossil fuels.
Great,
And
thank you. Glad to
thank
hear
you.
it.
Thanks.
We had a comment in the chat from, I guess it's Lee Michaels, and you talking about unifying North and South County. Do you want to explain what your concern is?
Actually, Dick, I think that came from me, Cliff Solomon.
Yeah, Lee Solomon is who I meant. Yeah, go ahead.
No, Cliff.
Cliff, sorry, I'm sorry. Senioritis, sorry.
So I'm just I'm in Santamaria, and I sometimes am bothered by the division of North County and South County. I know that there are some real differences, but I also am just asking how do you see working with the other supervisors, how can we attack problems as a county, both North and South County, as opposed to having a division?
Cliff, thank you for your question. The way I am approaching it is to learn more about North County. As you may know, Cuyama is part of my district, and I'm going there next week to learn as much as I can. I come into this position with a new perspective, and now not about North versus South, but a unity that we are one county and that the decisions I make, I want to have a positive impact for all counties, North and South. So for me, it's important that I go out, learn about Orchid, Los Alamos, Los Olivos, Santamaria, and learn about what their priorities are so that I can help any way I can as a supervisor to to make your lives better.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Well, the oil issue is the one that's come up already, and there's somebody in chat saying, you know, also referring to that issue. SBCAN is on record as saying we do not think any more permits for oil development in the county should be allowed because of, you know, we've got to get away from fossil fuels. And so as you learning, Roy, about how this issue plays out, what the legalities are and so forth, what do you think your own view is on how to, it's a delicate thing I'm asking in a way, because you can't, when you have to decide certain issues, you can't be accused of being prejudiced overall, but I guess I'm asking what your hopes and values are around that. Do you agree with the idea that we need to be carbon free within a very short period of time as things go?
Thank you. So my stance is I do believe that we need to step away and move away from fossil fuels, but that will take time. And our goal currently is 2030. I hope that we can make it, and hope we can. If the worst case scenario, we extend it 5 years to achieve our goal. For the past 9 months before I came to this position, I have great mentors working with Linda Kropp from the EDC. She has been an amazing advisor to me about how to approach oil and how to decide on environment. But I just want to say I will listen to all sides and make sure that I will do that and make the best decision for our county.
What do you know, Roy, about the any plans the oil industry has that are coming up before the county? Mention any specifics that you're aware of?
I do not. The agenda comes out. What concerns me is about, you know, the new presidency, what they're going to do. That's my biggest concern, and we will see. But hopefully, they will not undo what we fought so hard for to preserve our coastline and protect our environment from these oil companies that are from who knows where, that serves shareholders, and all they care about is making money off of us and our environment. So I will not tolerate that.
Great. Anyone else want to ask any oil questions? Because I also think, and Roy mentioned, as housing was one of his high priorities, and the county is coming to grips with that issue. I don't know if anyone, I often do try to, I'm professorial around here, so I can raise questions even if they're not coming from the rest of you. And one important issue has to do with this, that we need a lot of public subsidy for housing that will be affordable, but the United States as a national entity has very meager sources of support for public housing. Basically, we have the Section 8 voucher program, which is completely inadequately funded, which subsidizes low-income people to been able to pay their rents. There's a concept that used to be called public housing, but is better named social housing, which means that there's an encouragement in the society for housing produced not for profit but for need, and that is available for working people in general, not just the lowest income people, and most countries in Europe have such social housing programs as a matter of course. The current administration makes us completely obvious there's not going to be a national housing program that will help communities. But what we are trying to work on is local uses of local resources for subsidizing housing. And the city of Santa Barbara has recently established a affordable housing trust fund that we are now seeking ways to make that fund really useful by having adequate revenue sources for it. Well, the county, I think, and people have advocated that the county also establish such a trust fund. And one idea is to have a bond issue for affordable housing in the county, but there are other ways of raising local funding through various kinds of tax measures. And I wonder whether you've thought about this at all, and how you might react to the idea of a housing trust fund that would subsidize affordable housing.
I think it's a great idea. That European model works incredibly well. Currently in the Santa Barbara County is about 10% that's public housing. We need to raise up to 30%. And my staff and I is actually working on this. The term I use is Affordable Housing Trust Fund, but I like your term, the Social Housing Trust Fund. I think that's a great term. And we looked at different strategies to fund it. We look at DIF fees, developer impact fees, as a way to fund it. But I think the important thing is we need buy-in from other cities, such as Carpinteria, Gurita, Lompoc, and Santamaria, to get them buy-in, because housing affects all of our communities, because people can live and commute. So we need to get buy-in from other agencies to make this happen, to fund it.
Yeah, I think my understanding is there's going to be a report soon from county staff about workforce housing. And, in addition to the trust fund idea, there's the concern that the housing that is going to be produced will not be low income affordable, or even lower income workforce housing will not be supplied to meet the RENA goals even. And I know that Supervisor Capps was trying to see if the county can make use of county-owned land as a way of helping produce affordable housing. I guess what we're wondering is, what else have you been learning and wanting to accomplish in terms of making sure that we can achieve even the RENA goals with respect to affordable housing?
One tactic is to streamline the permitting process. The faster we can build these affordable housing, the better. So we're working with P&D, planning development, to be able to cut down the time it costs to get the permits to start building. So before it was 6 months, let's get it down to 60 days. So that way developers can able to start building and get people into these homes.
Well, that's something, but I see John Polanski's in the room. Are you here, John? Do you want to chime in on this question?
Hi, thank you, Dick. And hi, Supervisor Lee. John Polanski with the Housing Authority of the County of Santa Barbara. I'm just actually enjoying the discussion. Dick, I really appreciate you bringing it up, because it is something that we're working on every day.
So there's not some specific goals that you could raise with Roy at this point that would help him set priorities?
Well, I think he's actually mentioned them. Streamlining the permit process, looking at, if we could possibly, defer or do something with the impact fees. I mean, those are really good areas, and actually, we're really looking forward to scheduling kind of a one-on-one to talk through some of the ways in which we can produce affordable housing faster. I will say that we had a really good call with P&D, County P&D yesterday on one particular project and how we get that done quicker, and they were very responsive. So I think I really am hopeful that we can work together, with Supervisor Lee, with all the supervisors, and with the county staff. I think everybody is on the same page with the need for affordable housing and getting it done sooner rather than later. So I really appreciate the discussion.
And I see Linda Honickman is here, and Linda is very much follows all the housing issues in the county. Do you want to raise any issues with Roy?
Well, since John Polanski is here too, I am concerned, we have all of these opportunities now because of the state laws. There are a lot of plans on the books for affordable housing where I am, which is in District 2. We have the San Marcos Ranch and we have the Tatum property, which is going to help the local school district employees. And the two so-called affordable developments that are part of San Marcos Ranch, I think one will be for seniors and one will be for, they're going to try the missing middle, which is great because that's another need. The problem is there are so many of those projects now in the pipeline, or hopefully they will be in the pipeline, that it's going to be really hard to get funding because there's a lot of competition. And now we're almost competing with each other with jurisdictions. So I don't know if John has any suggestions on, for example, do you think if we established a housing trust fund similar to the one the city did, would that help you get some leverage with funding? What are your suggestions?
Santa Barbara
Yeah,
has. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just saying it's an all the above approach. I think advocacy does work. When our elected officials at the state and the federal government understand that it's important to constituents, it becomes important to them. So I think Linda, advocating housing trust fund certainly helps. A lot of times, as you know, we leverage 6, 7, 8 different sources of funding to get affordable housing built. So it's no one funding source. It's a whole variety of funding sources that we need to use. So yeah, I really think that all of the above approach, and sorry to interrupt you, Roy.
Oh, sorry. And just, I fully agree with you. And another thing that we're working on is the ADU program, having pre-approved plans where people can pick, and then ideally within 60 days, you can build an ADU in your backyard. And then you can either rent it out, sell it, but they'll provide additional homes for people in our county.
Okay, I see an interesting message from, I don't know you, Robert O'Reilly, but you wanted to introduce yourself. You've done it on chat, but maybe you'd like to do that in person.
I did, just because, thank you very much, Dick. The supervisor and the council member being present, I wanted to at least say hello. I was hoping there was an opportunity that we could all be in a room together, but this works great, as I am out of the Ventura City office, as I mentioned. But I just wanted to introduce myself, Supervisor Lee, welcome, Councilmember Santamaria, and to the group as a district representative for Congressman Carbajal. And let you know that I do cover the areas of environment and agriculture, which does cover the U.S. forest as well. And I also handle some other areas, but I think that's most applicable here to this group. I look forward to working with you all and with you, Supervisor and Council Member. And I have put my phone number and email in there. Please do not hesitate to contact me for any reason, any of you, please. And thank you so much for allowing me to introduce myself to.
Great. So thanks for being here, and So maybe one delicate question on housing, Roy, is I know that you, as a member of the Ojai, I mean of the Carpinteria City Council, was quite opposed to plans for a joint public-private project, I guess, on the edge of Carpinteria, it's Ballard Project. You want to reflect on that and how that relates to the larger housing agenda?
I do. So I'm not against the Red Tail Hawk project because the city was working with the county to make it happen. What happened was we were kind of kicked out of the room and they proposed something much bigger than we anticipated. We asked for something that conformed with our building standards. So the city actually supports housing, is just not the high density housing in such a sensitive area that it's already too dense. And to put that in will make that area just dangerous because of evacuation, ingress, egress. So the position that City Carpinteria is, and myself is, yes, we're for housing, but the density is just way too high, and it's a builder's remedy project. So we just want something that's more conform to the surrounding neighborhood and the building standards.
So how is that evolving, do you think?
I haven't been briefed on that, but we would just like to work with the county, or I guess me now, to come to agreement and compromise on the housing.
Yes, and so there's still some possibility for that.
I hope so. I hope to have that discussion and where both parties are able to go forward with this housing that will be beneficial to our communities.
Well, John Polanski's here. I don't know if you want to comment at all, John. Probably not, but go ahead if you do.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this is probably, we need to adjourn to a one-on-one meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
To talk through, you know, what transpired, where we're at, and hopefully where we can go together. So I do look forward to that, to having the meeting. We, you know, we look for every site. We're working on a county site for affordable housing. We're working on school district sites for affordable housing. We're working with churches who have excess property on affordable housing. So we're really trying to, again, we're trying to do an all of the above approach, and making good use of the sites that we have. But definitely working with neighbors, working with you know, the other constituencies is really important to us. So you know, we you know, enjoyed it when the city was engaged with us, and we hope we can get back to that point.
Sebastian Alden, you are raising a very local question, but it seems interesting. Do you want to spell that out? If you're there.
Yes, I'm right here.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I just wanted to touch on the overpass. I mean the pedestrian bridge from Canada, that would be South Canada, over the freeway, that's Canada Street, over the freeway to Dwight Murphy or the zoo area. It's proposed that there's a draft bridge. I know funding's an issue. I'm just curious to know if, being that it's in your district, if you've been informed, and if so, if you have an update.
Is this more for Wendy on the city council or for the county?
Well, it's actually for both, because he represents the county district.
County district is it?
And then being that they're working on the freeway and infrastructure funds are available, it just seems the perfect time to deal with this. And it is a request from the neighborhood for approximately 30 years.
Huh.
And it's finally come to surface. And it is one of the east side is one neighborhood that doesn't have a pedestrian footbridge. If you look on the lower west side, the west side, as you go towards Goleta, all neighborhoods have a footbridge. The Lower East Side is one neighborhood that never had it.
Well, thank you. This is one reason I wanted to do this kind of conversation with the new supervisor and with Wendy too. Is that sounds like a really important problem for a community, a neighborhood, and this is a little bit of a framework in which you can raise that directly with the elected. So I don't know if Roy wants to make a comment on that. You may not even know about this, but it's something now that you might pay attention to.
I do. I am aware of the situation. I do not have an update. I will ask and I can respond with answers
Great.
Soon. Thank you.
Any other things people want to raise?
May I just make a couple comments?
Yeah.
So I just want to add additional priorities for me is how important animal welfare is. How important that we have to treat our best friends. My best friends, I have 2 dogs. I'm a big animal advocate. How we can do better in our county for them. So I see Lee Hale here of a beautiful puppy. So I just want to let everybody know that. And the big whale, or I say big rocket discussion that we should be having is the impacts of SpaceX happening in our county. That's something that is so challenging to address, but we're looking at every possible option.
Great. You're getting applause, so that's a good sign.
I would comment that I don't mind government launches, even though they shake my house and put cracks in the stucco and so forth and so on. But I do not like our Air Force doing business with a multi-billionaire Nazi, which is what he is.
Uh-huh. So you're prejudiced against billionaires.
Yes, they're a policy failure.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
I don't think any of us really love Nazis either, Dick.
He is a Nazi. There's no question.
Okay, back to reality.
I don't think that's even a controversial statement in my own mind either. Thank you. But some people disagree, and that's inevitable. All right. Well,
Ben, I've got my hand up.
oh, I didn't see. That's not your hand. That's your thumb. Go ahead.
Well, okay, sorry. Hi, it's Joyce Howerton here, and I want to appreciate you, Supervisor Lee, for coming on to this meeting. I think this is a really healthy beginning for the county. And I wanted to invite you. In the past, I've done a tour of Central and North County for both the Santa Barbara Foundation and the Fund for Santa Barbara. And I would like to invite you to come up for lunch and do a little tour that you're not going to necessarily see as an elected official, but as a community member. I want to show you our North County and some of the issues that are very interconnected with what we've been talking about today, but also other issues that haven't been brought up. So I'd like to put that invitation out for you to come up and spend some time up here, and I will show you the other side to a beautiful North and Central Santa Barbara County.
Joyce, I would love that. Please email me at my county website, and then I'll be honored to go up there and learn more.
Great, thank you.
All right. I want to make sure we've got everybody. Gail Osharenko, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just put in the chat a save the date for people. February 27th, the League of Women Voters is going to hold our first community forum of the year at the Santa Barbara Public Library, Faulkner Gallery. We will live stream it with the help of TV Santa Barbara. It's going to be on immigration and protecting our immigrant community, individuals, businesses, ranches, farms, and give them hopefully more information about what we can do to respond to what's going on from the White House. And come also SBCAN, Clergy and Laity United, our North County partners in the league, and some others I can't remember at the moment are co-sponsoring the forum. Oh, the Fund for Santa Barbara is helping us out. So just save the date, and we'll have Spanish interpretation, and later the recordings will all be posted on our YouTube page. And I don't know if Roy wants to say anything more about whether our county should do more to be a welcoming county, or pass a resolution that joins others as sanctuary counties. We got a report on the 2023 Truth Act from the Sheriff's Office. We'd really like to see the report for 2024, which we know has more people who were, turned over on release from the jails to ICE, something on the order of 16. And what more can we do?
Great question. Roy, you want to respond?
I would love to do as much as we can. Laura and I have a great relationship, and I would like to work with her on this and bring something before the board that will show people where we stand, that we are here to protect our community, protect our immigrants from basically racial profiling. That's what it is. So I would love that. Thank you for that suggestion. I will contact Laura's office, and
thank you. We'd really like that.
thank you.
Let's see, Stanley Tsankoff.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for this space, and looking forward to meeting you and working with you, Supervisor. So my name is Stanley Tsankoff. I'm a co-founder and volunteer organizer with the Santa Barbara Tenants Union. We're all volunteer. We work on housing issues. And, with that hat on, perhaps predictably, I'd like to ask if there are any tenant protections that are part of your platform or that you'd like to look into. I think, of course, we need to walk and chew gum at the same time and talk about affordable housing construction in the long term. And even with that goal in mind, we know that the quickest way to preserve housing affordability is by allowing tenants to stay in our homes in cases of rent evictions or kind of runaway rents. So I'm just wondering, are there any tenant protections that that are kind of on your mind, either short term or long term?
Thank you, Stanley. When I was in Carpinteria as a council member, I supported and advocated that we had stronger tenant protections, and we passed it unanimously. And I have always advocated for mobile home protections. And the city of Carpinteria, we have about 7 mobile homes, and we fought so hard to protect our tenants, those tenants in the mobile homes from for the protection. So you and I need to sit down and meet, because I would love to sit down here and learn more about your perspective.
Sure, would love that. Yeah, can reach out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stanley, is there any specific protection measure that you have in mind that you want to bring forward just because you have the opportunity?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, one thing that we're really witnessing, and we have been for years, is, sadly, the county has failed to fully stop rent evictions, right? This sort of bad faith displacement of tenants, primarily low, working class folks. And, we last year, with this huge threat in Isla Vista, which was the biggest eviction threat in recent memory. The county made huge strides in passing a right to re-rent post renovation. There's better things that you need to do beforehand to make sure that you have permits in hand. But where the county failed is in ensuring that there's a cap upon rent increases when a tenant returns, right? So you know, de facto, it's a huge loophole. And then there's just rent stabilization. It's by no means the only tool in the toolbox. It goes hand in hand with all these other things we're talking about. But, you know, everybody has either received or knows somebody who's received a 9%, 8%, 10% increase over the last 3 years, and that's just unsustainable from my vantage point. So rent stabilization, rent eviction protections are the two really big ones, aside from housing production.
All right, thanks very much. We have a couple of minutes left before
Thanks so
Roy
much.
has to leave. Catherine Henry.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Catherine Henry. I'm a community organizer with Planned Parenthood California Central Coast. So our local Planned Parenthood affiliate here. Also want to echo all the housing concerns that have been brought up. That's something that we've been working on, that I've been working on with a lot of the people in this room. So definitely glad that's getting brought up. I do want to just kind of ask on a higher level, given the current state of reproductive health care, abortion access specifically. We are the only comprehensive abortion provider in the county, and our patients, our staff, our health centers themselves are facing increasing threats, and they're only likely to increase given the current administration and their very vocal disdain for us and our services. So I just wanted to ask how you see the Board of Supervisors stepping in, helping out, keep those protections, protect our patients, our staff, and the communities that we serve.
Thank you for that question. I just want to say I speak for the board, and we support women's reproductive rights. I'm proud to, and as going forward, we have to explore every possibility, working with our county council to see what steps we have to take to protect those rights. So, being this new administration, it's scary because we don't know what to expect. So it's every day that we just have to follow up and keep up with what they're doing and make sure that we as a county and the board do everything we can to protect women's rights.
Thank you. So I want to thank you so much, Roy, for joining us. I think this accomplished something along the lines that we were hoping in terms of making acquaintances. And I feel, speaking for myself, quite reassured by what you are saying and your presence here, that we're going to have a continued board majority for the kind of values and the kind of goals that SBCAN and other organizations that are members are here that we've been fighting for and working for. So we hope to maintain relationship with you, of course, and we will be putting our usual citizen pressures on you as well as all other elected people, but also want to feel that communication is good and it's open, and we're grateful for it. So welcome to the board and welcome to the discourse of the county. Roy Lee, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Dick. I want to thank everybody. I hope to meet everybody in person, and I'm here to learn. I really want to spend time listening and learning as much as I can, and how can we achieve our shared goals together. So we have a lot of time. This is my third week, so
I know.
So it's been amazing, but thank you. I look forward to our next meeting.
So do we. Thank you very much. All right. You are dismissed.
Thanks.
Free to go. So this is a little bit burdensome, I'm realizing, but take deep breaths. If you need to take a break from the scene, go ahead. But I'd like to introduce Wendy Santamaria. She was elected as well just recently. She is joining the City Council. And Wendy, welcome.
So much, Dick, and thank you to everyone who are just joining us today. So as Dick mentioned, my name is Wendy Santamaria. I am your new City Council member for the city of Santa Barbara. I represent District 1, which is everything from Alameda Pardisera all the way down to State Street, including East Beach, Milpas, the Funk Zone, and a lot of really wonderful neighborhoods. So I want to address some of the comments that were coming up before about issues on the east side, and also give you all just a brief overview of what my priorities are and how we can best work together. So yes, so we have two big projects on the east side, one being the pedestrian bridge. We don't currently have any updates on that, but as soon as the city does, then we'll go ahead and make sure we communicate those to the community. As far as Sycamore Creek, and the updates that are needed for Sycamore Creek are one of my top priorities for the east side. If you live anywhere on the east side, and even if you don't, you know how terribly it floods there and how many families are often at risk when it does. And so that is one of the things that I am working with our Creeks division very closely. We just started, we're doing a creek tour and really, looking at all of our options so that we can get ahead of these upcoming storms, as best as possible. So, those are some of the very hyper local issues to our district. With this being a county coalition, though, I do want to talk about some of the more broad priorities that I have that I know would connect more with also with other county stakeholders like everyone here. So some of my biggest priorities very much revolve around sustainability and stability. And I mean that both in the sense of our climate, climate sustainability and resilience, but also the stability of working families. We, in the city of Santa Barbara, we are often driven by our tourism and service industry. There are a lot of folks here that are, working class, many of them living paycheck to paycheck and often having multiple jobs just to be able to afford to live anywhere near the city that they make possible. And so my goal over the next 4 years is to really move us forward in implementing the needed tenant protections, facilitate the construction of social affordable housing, and then really make sure that we are being proactive when it comes to the millions of emergencies coming our way. And so everything from changes at the federal level to, unfortunate disasters like the wildfires that are happening, I want us to be proactive in making sure that we are thinking of the long term and how we want to move forward in the long term, but also how do we protect our local communities right now in the short term. And I think somebody here on the call talked about, walking and chewing gum, and that's exactly what we need to do in terms of our goals, that we need to think of the long term, but we also need to think about how do we preserve our local community? How do we avoid displacement? How do we support our local businesses to thrive, right? And then also, how do we prepare ourselves for things like, the repeal of climate protections, right? Or attacks on reproductive health for women. And so one of the things that I also want to make sure is that I'm working closely with our local Planned Parenthood, since the one in the city of Santa Barbara happens to be in my district. So even more committed, more than ever, to really support them and really make sure that both our staff and our patients are able to seek the reproductive care that they need without, harassment or anything else. So I also want to make sure that I am doing my part in helping us move as a region towards clean, renewable energy and really making sure that there is a smooth transition for those workers and that we are able to emphasize union density in these upcoming jobs, because we want the transition to be as smooth as possible, and we want the workers in the oil industry to have a way to transition to this new era of energy, right? But we also want to make sure that it's sustainable for them long term. And so how do we transition them, but how do we make sure that we either keep or increase the union density in those fields? So I really want to, I really look forward to working with our local unions and then really building the coalitions to close that cost of living gap with, skyrocketing cost of living and often low stagnant wages. So that's a little bit of my priorities, but I want to give the bulk of the time to folks to be able to ask me questions. I'm more than happy to answer anything that you have. And I'll go ahead and put my contact info in the chat at the end. So that way, if anyone here wants to set up another meeting, happy to grab coffee, chat, and get together to hear more.
Well, thanks a lot for that introduction. What intrigued me was that you presented a range of issues from what you call hyperlocal to, major concerns about let's call it the Green New Deal possibilities that still might be here in our community, regardless of what is true federally. And part of what was striking is that, you know, there was some gossip, or you might say, during the campaign that you were a single issue candidate, all about rent control, and you didn't even mention that. So go mention it now.
Yeah, for rent control, don't forget. One quick thing, I don't know why I forgot to add this, but the other thing I really want to focus on is both within the city and across our region, collaborating to make sure that we are protecting our immigrant community. Even just rumors of ICE sightings are sending a chilling effect in our community, and particularly in my district. So I really want to make sure that we are addressing that. And the reason why I address this range of issues is because, in my opinion, in my experience, all of these issues are intertwined. They're all connected. And so, we pull at one thread, we're pulling at, we're undoing the whole blanket of oppression. I don't know how else to put it. But Nancy has a question, so I really want to, give folks time to ask.
Well, Nancy, you have your hand up.
Yeah. Hi, Wendy. So again, congratulations. And I wanted to address a couple different things with you, just because we do have some funding still available from the McCune Foundation with organizing around East Side issues. And so one, I'll touch base with you like offline, but I would love to schedule some kind of regular monthly meeting where we can convene interested East Side residents that just want to give, their advice on what they want to see change, and just for you to familiarize yourself with the residents more than you have already. And then two issues that I've been kind of working on recently that I think could be really important are, one, I had a resident approach me about a bunch of open spaces and parks around the east side that have been closed off by temporary Marburg fencing. And so I'm sure that that's been raised to you, but I would love to work together and see what kind of compromise we can get to in terms of kind of mandating the city to have a scheduled timeline for when they're going to open back up the open spaces. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is an East Side local resource page. So that's a lot of East Side residents have come forward to me to let me know that they think it'd be really helpful if the city adopted some kind of official tab that has a list of East Side businesses and resources. And so I'd love to work on that with you and include other members of the community as well.
Nancy, I want to make sure I address all three of the points. So the first one, the regular meetings, we're on the same page, and I love this. So right now I'm working with city staff because I want to set up a monthly gathering space for folks on the east side to be able to come, but I want to be able to bring updates to the city that I can bring, right? But I also think it's really useful to expand the accessibility between city staff or department heads who are very specialized in certain areas, and just facilitate that conversation between residents and city staff. So the reason I'm saying I'm working with city staff on setting something up like this is because I want to make sure that we can regularly have folks from, say, for example, we have one town hall meeting, whatever you want to call it, and certain issues are being raised. Then we want to bring people from those appropriate departments in the next one, right? So I think us partnering would be wonderful. I think especially if SBCAN wants to dedicate some resources to really boosting up the awareness of the existing resource on the east side, I think that's wonderful. I am now on the Parks and Rec Commission. So this is something that I really want to, and it's something that I have also been hearing about, families simply want access to the space that their tax dollars are paying to maintain. It's not a hard ask. And a lot of families, especially if you live, for example, in an apartment, a place that doesn't have a yard, whatever it is, for a lot of children and families, this is their way of getting outside, and we need to facilitate that ability for folks to be able to get out there. So it is something that I'm actively working on and looking into, because I am very much aligned with wanting to make sure we have more access to that space. And then the third issue you brought up, Remind me what that was. I'm so sorry.
It was like a resource tab
Oh,
page. on the
yes.
official site.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. The resource page, I think that's something we could work with, our IT department, and they call it our PIO. His name's Brian. He's our public information officer. And so usually what that staff can do is they can compile all of these resources and really put it out to the community. Because something that I'm learning, in these first few weeks of my role is there are a lot of resources the city has that community simply doesn't know about. And so I'm very much aligned with making sure that we are like sharing that information as widely as possible. But yeah. So yeah, let's definitely talk more offline on getting that ball rolling. And then yeah, we can go from there.
Great. Carmen Rhodes is the director of the recently created UCSB Labor Center, and she has some information to share with you, Wendy, and the rest of us about the question of the labor question as it relates to the oil industry and the transition. Carmen, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dick. And it's so wonderful to see Councilmember Santamaria in action. I love your agenda. It sounds amazing. And wanted to flag for you and really for everyone else that we are working on a report to look at the past, present, and future of energy jobs on the Central Coast, including talking to and interviewing fossil fuel workers and their unions to get their ideas and perspectives about what it would really take to not have an unjust transition. And we are going to be modeling, we're looking at modeling both job losses of jobs here on the Central Coast, but also what are the highest opportunities for job gain, including looking at the possibility of jobs here in Santa Barbara County, as well as Ventura and of course, San Luis Obispo County, for jobs in offshore wind energy, but also looking at other possibilities for job creation. So we would love to, meet with anybody on this call, including you, council member, who's interested in that report, and we can share more about what's specifically going to be in it, but also get your ideas for anything that you want to make sure is included.
Great.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Dick. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that the information we're getting at this meeting inspires me, because it seems that a lot of things can happen at a community and local regional level, despite whatever is happening in the so-called government we now have nationally. So Wendy, since no one else has raised it, I will have to do with housing issues in the city. There's an immediate concern of or hope, I guess, that a kind of loophole exists in the tenant protection framework that the city council has actively created so far. And that loophole is that even though they now provide that tenants should who are displaced because of renovation, the so-called renoviction situation, they have the right to re-rent the apartment once the renovation is completed, but no cap was put on the rent that would be charged if they were to be offered that opportunity. And I wonder whether you want to comment about that.
Yeah, thank you, Dick. That's a really important conversation to have right now. I think especially in light of our regional emergencies with our fires and the displacement that we're seeing in neighboring communities, it's really important that we address that loophole. Some of you might remember that before I was on the city council, I've been in this space as a housing tenant rights advocate. So I'm very solid on this position. We need to place a cap on rent upon return, because that is the only way that we take the incentive of profit out of the question. Because if we allow for folks to have the motive to displace local families simply to make another buck, they're going to do it. We simply cannot operate under the hope that somebody will act in good faith and not displace a family when they have the opportunity to make a lot of money by doing so. And so this is exactly what our local governments are for. It's to, help stabilize our local communities, but also make sure that they're, nothing is going too far as to displace families for the sake of profit. So it is something that we are hoping to raise at the city council really as soon as possible. But I'm very solid on making sure that we bring that that stipulation in that ordinance, because it was removed, in 2023 when it passed. I think, Larry, you have a question?
I have a comment. That one thing coming before the city council on Tuesday is a question about how to allocate the half-cent sales tax revenue. I'm with Clue Santa Barbara. We've just submitted a letter in public comment. And if you support affordable housing as a bigger portion of the half-cent sales tax revenue than is currently being contemplated, that's an opportunity to make your views known. And I think the city council is going to be deciding about that based on some public input as well as other recommendations. So I just wanted to alert people that that's a pressing issue about housing that's right before us. Thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, and let me expand that point. Because people may remember that we, SBCAN and other organizations, endorsed the sales tax increase precisely because a large portion of it was going to go into filling the coffers of the Housing Trust Fund, creating a permanent revenue stream for the Housing Trust Fund. The hope was that about a third of the revenue from the sales tax increase would go to that purpose. The staff has come back with a report that indicates only about 12% of that increase they're recommending would go into the trust fund. So that's part of the background of what Larry is talking about. So you guys at Clue have put out a letter that you're asking people to sign. Can you put that in the chat? And people may want to sign on to that. And you had some information in your message that I saw this morning about what people should do if they want to speak at the council or turn out at least for the council meeting. Wendy, would you like to make any comment on that issue, this Measure I, and how it's going to be, the funds are going to be allocated? The measure passed, which is itself was not necessarily inevitable, and I think we view it as having passed because housing was a priority within it. So from a policy,
can I just? I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to raise my hand. Can I just insert?
Please.
Wendy, thank you very much for your support of Measure I. I know you worked very hard on that. And as the person sort of coordinating the campaign, our understanding was that a large portion, approximately a third or more, could go and be directed to the Housing Trust Fund and or other affordable housing opportunities. And I was very disappointed in the staff report that isn't even committing to $2 million a year, said between $1 and $2 million should be allocated. And I think that's an insult, frankly, to everybody who worked for that measure. And I was very disappointed to see that staff report. So I just wanted to insert that. And also thank you for your work on helping us pass what wasn't a done deal by anybody's imagination. So thank you.
Hey, Mary, thank you for that. And I hope you have a chance to testify to the council to that effect, by the way.
Yeah. And backfilling Measure C, which I also ran, is not the purpose of Measure A, of Measure I.
Any comments, Wendy? You're here.
Yes, absolutely. So Larry, Mary, I mean, all of you, thank you for bringing this up, because I I am very much on the same page as you all. I am acutely aware of how much work this group and others aligned with our values put into getting Measure I passed and making sure that there wasn't a competing measure on the ballot. And I think that in my view, and this is something that you'll hear me share on the dais, I think it's imperative on the city council to keep that promise. We can't just say, thank you for your help. Oh, just kidding. We're going to put the money elsewhere. And if for those of you that have seen the report, and in case you haven't, it's true. So they're saying the staff report says 1 to 2 million, and they are leaving it up to the city council. I mean, 2 million isn't even enough. But what you'll also see is the staff report recommends that we put upwards of $600,000 to unfreeze for officer positions in our police force. And one of the reasons that it came up that the city wanted to do this was because they were getting more calls on State Street that required more presence. But those calls are regarding folks that are unhoused. And it goes right back to, for me, what is a fundamental belief that you can't police your way out of homelessness. You have to house your way out of homelessness. Us increasing the number of sworn officers out in the streets is not going to do anything for our housing crisis. I personally would much rather, number one, see the existing police officer positions that are not filled first. And instead of allocating that money there, we should, in my opinion, we should be waiting on the class and compensation study that the city is doing to make sure that we are allocating funding for public safety evenly across the board. We can't just jump the gun and say, because I didn't see anything in there for fire. I just saw it for police. And so that I want to make sure that we're taking account of all public safety matters. Now, as far as housing, Rob's not on this call, but I spoke to Rob a few days ago, and part of the issue with the city is that originally they were projecting that $7 million deficit. And so we were aware, okay, about half of the projected revenue is going to go to the deficit. Now the deficit is projected at 10 million. So now it's going to be upwards of 60% of the entire first year's revenue going to the deficit. And it's leaving us to fight for crumbs. And it's really difficult I think it's going to be very difficult for our city to maintain a good working relationship if we just go back on saying, yes, to a huge chunk of it to go to affordable housing. So part of what I talked to Rob about was in this first year, as we address our current budget deficit, I want us to, as a city, explore if we are not able to do the full 30% for the Housing Authority or for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, we need to work our way up to that. If in the first year we can't because of the deficit, then once we cover that deficit, we absolutely need to have something in writing that says, in the next cycle of Measure I revenue, we're going to up it until we get to that 30% that was promised. I know that on Tuesday, it's not going to be a done deal. As city council members, it's going to be our duty to present our priorities, and you'll hear from me, my priorities, yes, are on maintaining public safety, but policing is not the only way to maintain public safety. There's of course money in there for libraries, very much for, but I am with you all 100% on advocating for an increase to the allocation of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I think we should push for an increase now, but also for a scheduled increase in the coming cycles. Because if we can't get to 30% now, we need to get there eventually, in my opinion.
Just a little footnote to what you said about the police position. How can you hire new police when you don't have affordable housing that they can live in? This is, there's so many ways that the fundamental priority has to be doing something real about the housing crisis. I just, people who are making very good incomes are finding it, but who are renting are finding it very difficult to maintain here in this community, given what's happening in that rental scene. So thank you for your very cogent way of thinking about what's going to happen on Tuesday. So everybody who can should turn out or to tune in on Zoom, go to the council agenda website to see the agenda. There's a staff report there that you can see, and it talks about a $10 million deficit with no explanation of what is causing that deficit. What is the why is it? Why is there that deficit at this point? What would that? And if it has to do with things that Measure C, as Mary was suggesting, maybe why is the Measure I funds being tapped for this? This is all very wonky sounding, but it's really a critical thing. Lee, do you want to say something? Could you put something up there?
I have one quick question.
I just put a link into the agenda for Tuesday for city.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Go ahead, Larry.
It's agenda item 11.
That's
I know
right.
the council meeting starts at 2.
That's right.
It'd be really helpful to have some estimate about what time that item is going to come up, because a lot of people will want to hopefully comment, but not wait hours to do so.
Oscar or Wendy, do you, as council members, do you have any feel for when that might be?
I think I want to say roughly 2:30, but what I can do is as I'm up on the dais, I can send a message. I want to figure out like what's the best way to like decimate that info, but during the meeting, I could start like letting folks know like, hey, we're in item 9, we're 2 away or whatever. The important thing is being able to communicate to folks what's the cutoff, because we, our mayor often will say, we're not taking comments after X amount of, or after this time. And so just making sure that we can get people in. I want to say around 2:30, especially since it's item 11. We're not, unless you're there to comment on anything else that's not Measure I, then you'll have to be there, of course, in the beginning for general public comment. But if you're just talking on Measure I, yeah, maybe like 2:30. Oscar, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
And I was looking, Wendy, and items 1 through 9 are consent. And it looks like it's probably pretty brief. So unless something crazy happens,
okay,
getting out the advance word to people, because it's great that you can signal from the dais, but if people need to plan ahead, that it will be the earlier.
I think that's very wise. That 2:30 would be the latest time that you should be there, to just make sure if you really want to get on the speaker list and stuff like that. But you can also come in on Zoom from home. So that's why you should go to the link that Lee so graciously provided to us. Any other items that people want to raise with respect to Wendy's concerns, or any other announcements that people might have about things we should know about and want to be connected to and involved in? I'm going to put my gallery view on so I can see who's out there and whether there's anybody else. And I'm going to check the chat to see if I'm missing anything.
While I do that, I want to share one quick save the date, which is really soon. Actually, it's for tomorrow. But if anyone is around tomorrow, La Casa de la Raza on the east side is putting together essentially it's a response to the ICE sightings and what we can do as a community locally to protect our immigrant families. So if any of you are available, it's going to be, here, let me double check the time. I believe it's at noon. It is, yes. So it's at 601 East Montecito Street. I'll put it here in the chat. But if you or anyone else wants to, get in on that conversation, this is going to be not the only space, but it's going to be one of those spaces where, we're going to come together and do that. So I'll put those details in the chat, and I'll also put my contact info if anybody wants to follow up. I'm happy to meet.
So Wendy, maybe this is a good time if you have any final thoughts to share.
In general, or regarding anything specific?
In general.
Okay. I think in general, I think we need to make sure that we are coming in the coming weeks and months in our advocacy for housing and really anything that we do here. We need to make sure that we're including community input, but that we're also making sure that we're thinking of the long-term goals and the short term. And so thinking about how do we facilitate building affordable housing. For me, honestly, long-term Measure I prioritization is part of the long term, right? Because we want to be able to get those matching funds from the state to, after meeting with Rob and seeing all of the projects that they have in the pipeline, like it's incumbent on us to facilitate that as much as possible. But also, it bears repeating that the emergencies that are popping up at every level of our government require us to be proactive. And so I want to thank you all for staying together, for holding this space. And I know that, the weeks and months may get tough, but just know that I am here as a resource as much as possible. District 1's office is up in City Hall. You have a space. And I just want to make sure that we stay in touch about emerging issues in the community, because I want to make sure that we are responding in a timely manner, whether that's around immigration or housing, flooding. I mean, there's a lot of things going on. And I just want to thank you all for all your dedicated, what's the word for it? You're all putting a piece to that puzzle that we're building. And so I really do appreciate
I'm just excited.
Oh, hey, great.
Yeah.
Good, we need it, because that pump isn't working.
I know, it's not.
So it occurred to me while Wendy was speaking, I remembered a remark that Michelle Obama made when Barack Obama was elected president. She says, now we'll see what a community organizer can do in office. And I'm not sure how we evaluate that, but here we have Wendy has been an incredibly effective organizer, both in the community and then in labor, and now she's in office, and you can hear from just the way she has framed the issues and spoken with us, we've got an organizer now in the city council, and I'm excited by that. The only way I can imagine surviving the next few years and thriving at all is to focus on what we can achieve in our community as a first priority. And I'm inspired by today's meeting from both Wendy and Roy, because I think we have not only ears who will be listening to us, but people who will be empathic with the kind of values and issues that people around this space, I'm sure, share. I'm also inspired by what we are all involved in and interested in and advocating for. So I hope we can take heart from that. Please save the chat, because there's information in there that you might want. And in the chat, you will find a controversy between one of the participants who objected to a characterization made of Elon Musk. And I just want to say that this is the world's richest man. He's an emigre from South Africa because his family did not want to live in the non-apartheid South Africa. They were a racist, pro-apartheid family. That's what he was raised within. He did deliver what appears to many people to have been a Nazi salute, and then responded to the criticism with a series of jokes online on his Twitter X feed, Nazi jokes. And the Anti-Defamation League has condemned him for making light of the Holocaust. So these are the bitter things we are experiencing right now. But I think the more these people overreach and promote these totally anti-democratic values and actions, the more there's space for us to really change things in a different direction if we have the will. So I just thought I'd say that. I'm not tempted to open the floor anymore. I think we've had a very fruitful session, and I'm so glad all of you are here, and I hope you will return as we monthly, SBCAN tries to have these kind of roundtable experiences. Thanks very much.
Thank you all. I put my contact info in the chat, so feel free to reach out. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
You.
Thank you all for attending.